Why most women think a man who likes her will just say it. I am Liz Rose, a relationship expert, author, and researcher of emotional dynamics between men and women. For years, I have studied attraction, male behavior, emotional intelligence, and the patterns that bring people together or drive them apart. Today, I want to share with you what I have learned through my research, my professional experience, and the thousands of stories I have encountered throughout my journey. He won't just say it. That's not how it works. Not with a man who actually means it. Not with a man who looks at a woman and feels something real. Those men don't rush. They don't come in loud and obvious. They go quiet. They slow down. And most women read that quietness completely wrong. They think he's not interested. They think they misread the whole thing. They pull back. And the moment they pull back, the man who was actually starting to feel something real just watches the door close. That's the mistake. And it's happening all the time to smart women. Women who are paying attention. Women who genuinely want to connect with someone good. Not because they're doing something wrong, but because nobody ever told them what a man actually does when he's drawn to a woman he finds truly attractive. He doesn't show it the way movies say he will. He doesn't sweep in. He doesn't make it obvious. What he does instead is far quieter and far more specific. When a man is genuinely attracted to a woman and starting to wonder if she could be someone real in his life, he asks two very particular questions. They don't sound like much on the surface. They sound like normal conversation, like small talk almost, but they're not. They're the questions he uses to figure out if she's worth opening up to, if she's safe, if she's real, and most women answer them completely on the surface and never even realize what just happened. But a woman who understands how men think hears something completely different in those questions. She hears what he's actually trying to find out, and that changes everything about how she responds. So that's what this is really about. Not games, not tricks, just an honest look at what's going on underneath the surface when a man who wants you starts talking to you in a very specific way. But before I get into those two questions, I need you to understand something about men that most women were never really taught. Because without this piece, the questions won't make sense, and you'll keep reading them the wrong way. Here's what I've observed through years of studying men and relationships, something almost nobody talks about honestly. Men are far more careful with their feelings than they appear to be, not because something is wrong with them, not because they're cold or shut off, but because most men have been hurt by moving too fast. They've gone all in on someone who wasn't serious. They've shown their hand too early and watched the woman lose interest the second she felt like she had them. And that experience, even if it only happened once or twice, teaches a man to slow way down, to watch before he moves, to figure out who a woman actually is before he lets himself feel too much. So when a man is sitting across from a woman he genuinely likes, a woman he finds attractive in a way that actually gets to him, he doesn't just let that feeling run the show. He starts paying attention. He starts listening more carefully. He starts noticing things, not in a suspicious way, but in a trying to figure out if this is real kind of way. He's not asking himself if she's pretty. He already knows that. He's asking something much harder. He's asking if she's the kind of woman he can actually trust with something real. And the way he tries to answer that question is through conversation, through those two specific questions that look casual but are doing something much deeper. Most women don't catch this because they're focused on the wrong things. They're watching to see if he texts first, if he leans in, if he holds eye contact a little too long. And those things matter, yes, but they're the obvious layer. The layer underneath, the one that actually tells you where his head is in what he asks you. Because a man who isn't that interested in a woman doesn't ask her much. He keeps it light. He keeps it easy. He doesn't go anywhere real with a conversation because there's nowhere real he wants to go with her. But a man who is genuinely pulled toward a woman starts asking questions that have weight to them, questions that go just a little deeper than the situation calls for. And when that happens, when a man asks you something that feels oddly personal for where you two are, or oddly calm and focused when everything else around you is casual, pay attention. That's not small talk. That's a man trying to work something out. Now, here's something else I want to address because it trips women up constantly. A lot of women assume that if a man likes her, he'll be forward about it. He'll be confident, direct, and make it clear. And some men do work that way, but most men, the ones who are actually serious about wanting something real, don't lead with that kind of boldness. They lead with curiosity. They lead with questions. Because for a man who actually cares about the outcome, moving too fast feels risky. He doesn't want to get it wrong. Think about it this way. When you really want something that actually matters to you, you don't just grab at it. You get careful. You pay attention. You try to make sure you're reading the situation right before you do anything you can't take back. Men are the same way. A man who barely feels anything around a woman is often the most forward one. He's relaxed because nothing is really on the line for him. But the man who actually feels something, the one who looks at her and thinks, this could be something, that man slows down. He gets quiet. He asks questions. And if you don't know that about men, his quietness looks like disinterest and you pull back. Just like that, a real connection slips away before it even had a chance to start. This is why understanding these two questions matters so much. Not because they're magic, but because they show up every single time a man is genuinely drawn to a woman and trying to figure out if it's worth going further. Every time. Once you know what they are and what they're actually asking underneath, you stop second-guessing yourself. You stop wondering if he's interested. You stop reading into things that don't matter because you know exactly what to listen for. So here's the first question. And this one is easy to miss, because it sounds so ordinary. It sounds like something anyone would ask in a normal conversation. But it's not ordinary, not when it's coming from a man who is watching you a little more carefully than he's letting on. The first question is some version of this. What do you do when you're not working? Or what does your life actually look like day to day? Or simply, what do you do for fun? It might sound even simpler than that. It might just be him asking what you did over the weekend, or what you're up to later, or what a normal week looks like for you. It sounds like nothing. It sounds like the kind of thing you ask someone just to keep a conversation going. But when it's coming from a man who is genuinely attracted to you, it's doing something very specific. He's not asking about your schedule. He's asking about your world. He wants to know what your life actually feels like from the inside, what fills your time, what you care about, what kind of woman you are when nobody is watching and there's nothing to perform. Because here's what he's really trying to find out. He wants to know if you have a life, a real one, a life that has meaning to you, that you're actually invested in, that exists completely separately from any man. And this matters to him more than most women realize. A woman who has her own full life, her own thing she cares about, her own world she's building, that woman feels different to a man. She feels interesting. She feels like someone worth pursuing. She doesn't feel like someone who will need him to fill every empty space in her life the second things get serious. A woman whose answer to "what do you do for fun" is basically "nothing much" or "I don't know, just hang out." That answer doesn't make him feel needed. It makes him feel like there's nothing there to be drawn into. I've seen this pattern more times than I can count. Attraction, for a man, is about being pulled into something, into someone's world, into who she actually is when she's fully herself. So when he asks what your life looks like, he's checking, is there a world here I could want to be part of? Is there a person here who has something going on inside her that I haven't figured out yet? Most women answer this question way too small. They say, "Oh, I don't know, not much, just work mostly." Or they go the other direction and start listing things in a way that sounds like they're trying to impress him. Neither of those lands the way they want it to. The first makes her seem like she doesn't have much going on. The second makes her seem like she's auditioning. What actually works is something in between, something that sounds real and easy, and like she actually enjoys her own life. It might sound like this. Honestly, I've been really into cooking lately, like actually learning how to do it properly, not just throwing things together. Or, I've been spending a lot of time with my friends. We've been trying somewhere new every weekend, and it's kind of become our thing. Or even just, I've been reading a lot more recently, and I forgot how much I actually love it. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be real. It has to sound like she actually has a life she's living, not a life she's waiting to start once the right person comes along. Because the moment he hears that, the moment he gets a real picture of a woman who is already happy, already engaged in her own world, already living something full, something shifts in him. She becomes more interesting, not less, not harder to get to, just more worth getting to know. And here's what that kind of answer also communicates to him, whether she realizes it or not. It tells him something about how she'd be in a relationship. A woman who has her own life, her own interests, her own sense of self. That woman is not going to fall apart the first time things get hard. She's not going to make him her whole world in a way that puts all the pressure on him. She's going to stay herself. And for a man who is thinking about something real, not just something casual, that matters enormously. So when he asks about your life, don't shrink the answer. Don't perform it either. Just let him see the real thing. Because the real thing, when it's genuinely yours, is always the most attractive version of it. Now here's what happens after that first question. If your answer gives him something real, something that makes him feel like there's more to you than the surface, he doesn't stop there. He gets more curious. He leans in a little. Not always physically, sometimes just in the way the conversation shifts. It gets a little more focused, a little more intentional. The small talk starts to fall away, and that's when the second question shows up. The second question is the deeper one. And this is the one that most women almost never see coming because it sounds even more casual than the first, but it's doing far more work underneath. The second question sounds something like this. What are you actually looking for right now? Or, where do you see yourself going with all of this? Or, are you happy with where things are in your life right now? It might come out even softer, like, what do you want? Or, what does that actually look like for you? Or just a simple, are you happy? It sounds almost too easy, like the kind of thing you'd ask anyone. But when a man who is genuinely drawn to you asks that question, he is not making small talk. He is asking something he actually needs to know the answer to. Because this question is about something very specific. He's trying to figure out if there's room for him in the direction you're heading, if what you want lines up with what he wants. If you're the kind of woman who knows what she's after, or the kind of woman who is just going along with whatever happens, and that distinction matters to him more than almost anything else at this stage. A man who wants something real doesn't want to chase a woman who has no idea what she wants. That feels exhausting and uncertain, like a bad investment of his feelings. But a woman who knows what she wants, who can say it clearly and easily without making it heavy or desperate, that woman feels different. She feels like someone he can actually build something with, someone who is going somewhere and would consider letting him come along. So when he asks what you're looking for, he's not just asking about dating. He's asking about you as a person. Are you the kind of woman who knows herself? Are you going somewhere? Do you have a direction? Are you open to something real? Or are you just along for the ride? Most women answer this question in one of two ways that both push the man away without meaning to. The first way is to go too heavy, too fast, to say something like, I'm looking for something serious. I want a relationship. I'm at the point in my life where I'm ready to settle down. That answer isn't wrong, but it lands too hard. It makes the conversation feel like a job interview. And it puts all this weight on a moment that should still feel light, easy, like two people just getting to know each other. The second way women get this wrong is to go too vague, to say, oh, I don't know. I'm just going with the flow. Whatever happens, happens. And chi, one, chiu, de. That sounds relaxed on the surface, but it actually communicates something men find deeply unattractive. It says she has no idea what she wants, and a man who is serious about finding something real doesn't want to figure out what a woman wants for her. He wants a woman who already knows. The answer that actually works is the one that sits right in between those two. It sounds something like this. Honestly, I'm in a really good place right now. I know what I want, and I'm not in a rush, but I'm definitely open to something real if it feels right. That's it. That's the whole answer. It says, I have direction. I'm not desperate. I'm open, but I have standards. And it says all of that without making the conversation feel heavy or serious before it's earned that weight. Or it might sound like this. I'm really focused on building things right now, my own life, my work, the stuff that matters to me. But I think when the right thing comes along, I'd know it. That version says the same things. She has a life. She has focus. She's not waiting for a man to give her direction, but she's open. She's not closed off. There's a door there, and it's not locked. And when a man hears that kind of answer, something changes in how he looks at her. She becomes someone he wants to earn, not in a game-playing way, in a real way. In the way that you feel about something you have to actually work toward a little bit, because things that come too easily don't feel like much once you have them, but something you had to move toward, something that made you feel like you had to show up properly to get there, that feels worth having. That's what these two questions are really doing when you strip everything else away. They're not tests in a cold or calculating way. They're a man trying to figure out if a woman is worth feeling something real about, if she's the kind of person whose world he wants to be part of, if she knows herself well enough to be a real partner rather than just someone to spend time with. And the reason these questions matter so much, especially for women who are genuinely attractive, is this. A man who approaches a woman he finds truly attractive is already a little off balance. He already feels something. And that feeling makes him more careful, not less. Because the more he wants something, the more it costs him if it doesn't work out. So he doesn't just dive in. He takes stock. He pays attention. He asks questions that tell him what he needs to know before he decides whether to go further. This is why so many attractive women find themselves confused about men who seem interested and then suddenly go quiet. It's usually not that his interest disappeared. It's that something in the conversation made him feel uncertain. Maybe her answer to the first question made her seem like she didn't have much going on. Maybe her answer to the second one made things feel too heavy or too vague. And he pulled back, not because he stopped finding her attractive, but because the picture he built of her in those moments didn't match what he was hoping to find. And this is the part that most people never talk about. Attraction in a man can stay strong while his interest in pursuing someone drops. He can think she's beautiful and still decide not to move toward her, because beauty is one piece of it, but it's not the whole thing. What he's really chasing, what every man who wants something real is actually chasing, is a woman who makes him feel like she's worth the risk of feeling something. That's it. That's the whole thing underneath all of it. He's looking for a woman who makes the risk feel worth it. And the way he figures that out is through those two questions. What does your life actually look like? And what are you looking for? Those two questions tell him almost everything he needs to know about whether you're that woman or not. So here's what I want you to take from all of this and bring into your actual life. When a man asks you about your life, don't shrink. Don't perform. Just let the real version of your life show up in the answer. Talk about the things you actually care about the way you'd talk about them to a friend. Not to impress him, not to show him you're busy, but because you actually have a life that you're living, and it's genuinely yours. That's what's attractive. Not the list of things, the energy behind the list. The fact that she's actually present in her own life. And when a man asks what you're looking for, don't go heavy. Don't go vague. Stay in the middle. Say something that shows you know yourself, that you have direction, that you're open to something real, but not desperate for it. That combination, self-awareness, openness, and an absence of desperation, is one of the most attractive things a woman can communicate to a man who is genuinely thinking about whether to move toward her. Because here's the truth that ties all of this together. A man who is serious about a woman is not just looking at how she looks, he's looking at how she lives. He's looking at whether she's a full person with her own world, or someone who is waiting for him to come fill an empty space. He's looking at whether she knows herself, whether she has somewhere she's going, whether letting himself feel something for her is a good idea. And he finds out the answer to all of those things through conversation, through those quiet, specific, easy-sounding questions that most women never think to look at twice. But you're not most women, and now you know what those questions are actually asking. So the next time a man you like starts asking what your life looks like, or where you're headed, or what you actually want, don't just answer the surface of the question. Hear what he's really asking underneath it. He's asking if you're worth moving toward. And if you're living your own life, if you know what you want, if you're open but not desperate, the answer is already yes. All you have to do is let him see it. Because men don't fall for women who chase them. They fall for women who are already so fully themselves that being around them just feels like somewhere worth being. That's what those two questions are really looking for. And now you know exactly how to answer them.